Good afternoon, committee members. Welcome to meeting number 21 of the Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills, Social Development, and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. We are hearing, before we get to that, the clerk has advised me. Yes, okay. The clerk has advised me we do have a quorum, and there is no one appearing virtually. So everybody is in the room, which means translation should be fine. So again, today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the standing orders. Members are attending in the room and are in person. Today's meeting, everyone is in the room. I would ask all members to familiarize yourself with the headset. Choose the official language in which you prefer to participate in. Make sure you're on the right channel so we don't have disruptions. If there is a breakdown in translation, please get my attention by raising your hand, and we'll suspend while it is corrected. Again, please refrain from tapping on the boom for the benefit of the interpreters. As well, make sure all your devices are silenced before we begin the meeting. Again, please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking, and address all comments through I, the chair. Subject matter of Part 5, Divisions 34, 36, and 44 of Bill C-15, an act to implement certain provisions of budget tabled in Parliament on November 4, 2025. Before I introduce the witness, Madame Koutrakis, you had your hand up. It's related to this.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Happy New Year, colleagues. It's really great to be back here and see you all. I think, Mr. Chair, if you seek it, you will find you have unanimous consent for the following motion that our colleagues across moved at FINA, that the committee undertake a subject matter study of Bill C-15, specifically Clause 571, Division 34, Clauses 573 to 575, Division 36, and Clause 599, Division 44, and that the committee invite the following witnesses: the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure for 1 hour, the Minister of Jobs and Families for 1 hour, the Auditor General and Ana Balao, I hope I spelled that or said that correctly, each for 1 hour, and any other witnesses the committee deems relevant, and that the committee forward any recommendations or suggested amendments arising from the study to the Standing Committee on Finance no later than Thursday, February 27, 2026. And I do have it in French as well.
Please circulate. The members of the committee have heard the motion of Madame Koutrakis. Mr. Janis, on the motion.
Thank you, Chair. Just will that be distributed by? That'll be distributed by email momentarily. Okay. Can we have 2 minutes?
You certainly can.
Thanks.
We'll suspend for 2 moments while it is being circulated. Suspend. in session. Oui.
Je suis désolée, j'ai...
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I'd like to take another minute. I wasn't on the distribution list, and I've just received the motion. So could we have a little bit more time, please? Yes, 1 moment.
A minute.
A minute. A minute or two. 2 minutes?
2 more moments. Spend. He was suspended for a moment while members were reviewing a motion. The motion, we have Mr. Janis on the motion of Madame Koutrakis.
Oui, Monsieur le Président. Nous
Yes.
cette motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we support this motion, but today we've discussed informally adding, with the committee's consent, a line on submitting witnesses, other witnesses, and that would be the next meeting of the committee.
You've heard? Good.
Pour nous, c'est correct. On a...
That works for us. We accept that amendment.
Okay. We've heard the amendment. I'm going to deal. The amendment moved by Mr. Janis, agreed. Seeing unanimity, the main motion as amended. An agreement, Madame Loders.
Auriez-vous juste pu répéter pour...
Could you repeat to help us follow the resolution as amended, please, Mr. Chair?
Yes, it simply, the amendment was to, I'll let Mr. Janis speak to it, to give a date for additional witnesses. Mr. Janis.
Exactly, yeah. So the motion says, ainsi que tout autre témoin que le...
In addition to all other witnesses that the committee deems relevant. And I just proposed putting a deadline to be the next meeting for submitting witnesses, names of witnesses.
Oh, Madame Lavroche.
Okay, Madame Larouche? Yep.
Then the motion as amended. All in agreement? Seeing agreement, so that clarifies. I would like to now continue with introducing our witness for today. We have with us the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, the Honourable Gregor Robertson, accompanied by Paul Halusha, Deputy Minister, Michelle Barron, Assistant Deputy Minister, Corporate Service and Chief Financial Officer, Michelle Tremblay, Chief Financial Officer and Senior Vice President, Corporate Services with CMHC, and Joël Huppé, Chief Financial and Administrative Officer with the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority. Mr. Minister, you have up to 5 minutes for your opening statement. The mic will come on.
Merci. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members, for inviting me to appear before you today to discuss the proposed measures in Bill C-15, the Budget Implementation Act. I am pleased to be joined here today by several officials that can answer any of the more technical questions that you may have. Comme le comité le sait,
As the committee is aware, housing is one of the top priorities of our government. That's why in September, Prime Minister Carney and I launched Build Canada Homes, Canada's new federal agency with the mandate to scale up the supply of affordable housing across Canada.
Build Canada Homes is part of a much broader set of measures to catalyze the housing industry. By leveraging federal lands, public lands, deploying flexible financial tools, and catalyzing modern methods of construction, the agency is driving a more productive and innovative home building sector. But the impact of Build Canada Homes is poised to go well beyond just the housing sector. As a nimble and focused agency, Build Canada Homes is a fundamental shift in how the federal government can invest in our Canadian economy. Build Canada Homes is about building, but it's also about buying, and that's buying Canadian. In these turbulent times, the federal government is committed to being Canada's best customer to help Canadian industries scale up and retool amidst global uncertainty. Central to Build Canada Homes' mandate is to prioritize projects that use Canadian materials and therefore strengthen domestic supply chains. Every new home means more demand for Canadian steel, aluminum, and lumber. And as that construction ramps up, we will grow, train, and support Canada's skilled workforce, creating good-paying jobs along the way. To do all of this critical work, Budget 2025 committed an initial investment of $13 billion over 5 years to support Build Canada Homes. The measures proposed under Bill C-15 here would operationalize Build Canada Homes and ensure that it has the required resources to deliver results. Results that Canadians are counting on, from the construction worker who's looking for work to young people looking for their first home for their growing family. Specifically, these measures will authorize payments out of the Consolidated Revenue Fund of up to $11.5 billion to support Build Canada Homes operations and activities, primarily the activities and financing of affordable housing across the country. This funding will enable the agency to acquire land, partner with developers, and make investments that accelerate housing construction through modern construction methods like factory-built housing. And we cannot build hundreds of thousands of new homes without the infrastructure that makes communities work. And that brings me to Division 4 of Part 5 in Bill C-15, which amends the Canada Infrastructure Bank Act. Budget 2025 announced our government's intention to increase the Canada Infrastructure Bank's statutory capital from $35 billion to $45 billion. And this $10 billion increase is a strategic investment in Canada's future. The increase in capital will unlock financing for major projects that drive national priorities. First and foremost, housing, trade, decarbonization, Indigenous economic development, as well as new investments like key nation-building projects and advanced technologies like AI, all of those in line with the CIB's mandate. So these investments will be very impactful and grounded in the real needs of communities across Canada. The proposed investment is about investing smarter and maximizing the impact of the public dollar. And by strengthening the CIB's capital base, the infrastructure bank's funding, we are enabling it to keep pace with pressing national infrastructure needs, supporting good jobs, inclusive growth, and a more resilient future for everyone in Canada. The Budget Implementation Act 2025 is essential to deliver affordable housing at scale and to build the infrastructure required to build at that scale. Our government was elected with a strong mandate to make the generational investments that we need right now and to build strong and sustainable communities. Je vous remercie Encore de votre
I thank you again for inviting me. I am ready to answer your questions. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Lemon.
Thank you, Minister.
Time. We will begin the first round, which is 6 minutes, with Ms. Lewis. You have 6 minutes, Ms. Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister, for coming today. Now, Minister, this committee that you're appearing in front of today exists to ensure that public policy serves the people first. Your government has increased the Canada Infrastructure Bank's budget by $10 billion while expanding its role into AI-enabled digital infrastructure. Can you point me to a specific legislation where Parliament explicitly approved expanding the Canada Infrastructure Bank's mandate from traditional infrastructure like bridges, roads, water systems into AI, cloud, and digital systems?
Through the chair, thanks to the member for the question. The CIB to date has indeed focused on maybe what we call traditional infrastructure, as you mentioned. Given the growth opportunities that we have as a country, and given the scale of opportunity with projects of national interest right now, whether they be in energy or they be in technology like artificial intelligence, Canada is positioned to lead in these sectors, and the Infrastructure Bank is a great tool for investing in the infrastructure required to make sure these industries can scale and be successful, not only creating jobs in Canada, but creating opportunities with export markets to grow our economy.
Thank you for the answer, Minister. So I take from that there is no legislation that has approved this expansion of $10 billion, and this has not come before Parliament also. AI services have the potential to drastically alter how Canadians access government services. Who decided that AI and digital services systems now qualifies as infrastructure, and why was that decision not brought to Parliament or in a standalone bill?
Through to the member, with the Canada Infrastructure Bank, those priorities are in priorities letters, and then part of the corporate plan. Also, in the budget policy statement is where the 35 to 45 billion increase was, but the legislation does not have the expressed purposes of the funding. They're in the priorities letters and then the corporate plan of the CIB.
Thank you, Minister. Now, before approving that $10 billion increase to the CIB budget, what assessment was conducted before even producing those letters on how AI-enabled infrastructure financed through the Canada Infrastructure Bank or private sector even would affect workers, the users, and vulnerable Canadians?
Through the chair, I think if we look at the broader purpose of the Canada Infrastructure Bank, it is to leverage private sector investment into sectors in Canada that enable our economy to grow, to create jobs, and there have been many benefits to Canadians, particularly vulnerable Canadians, as we've been building housing infrastructure, funding that through the Infrastructure Bank, as well as broadband for remote communities across the north. We've been investing on the Infrastructure Bank has invested in energy infrastructure for remote communities to make them more energy secure. So many investments to date have already achieved that purpose of growing our economy, but also serving more vulnerable communities.
Minister, as the government services become more digitized and AI-enabled infrastructure through CIB is financed, what protections exist for the public sector workers whose jobs may be automated, reclassified, and eliminated because of AI tools?
Through the chair, at this stage, artificial intelligence obviously offers enormous opportunities for businesses across Canada to be more efficient and scale. We see enormous growth in that industry alone. Obviously, the investment globally and in Canada has been very significant in AI. Canada needs to be a leading country in terms of the AI industry globally. We want to make sure we're part of that. In this case, we want to make sure we are leveraging all of the tools we have as government whether it's with public financing, but that public financing needs to leverage private capital to invest and grow these the industries and benefit the many other industries that are deploying AI to make themselves more productive and efficient.
Minister, my question was specifically related to the protections of workers when AI displaces them, but I'll move on. Will AI systems, we've heard a lot of complaints, members of Parliament receive complaints from seniors who are having trouble even accessing benefits because of digitization. Will AI systems financed through the Canada Infrastructure Bank be used for any benefits eligibility decisions?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of the specific purposes and technologies that will flow from investments by the Infrastructure Bank into that sector. I think those are down the line in terms of outcomes. Initially, it's about making sure that the infrastructure can exist and serve Canadians. The whole purpose of this is public benefit. That is at the core of what the Infrastructure Bank is mandated to do.
So speaking of serving Canadians and public benefit, can you point me to a legal guarantee in any statute or regulation that will guarantee that no Canadian will lose benefits, employment opportunities, or access services without a timely and meaningful human review of AI-influenced decisions? Is that something that your government has contemplated, Minister?
Through the chair, I would urge the member to take those questions forward with some of my colleagues that are working more specifically on delivering those services in the departments that do that work. My focus is, in this case, with the oversight of the Infrastructure Bank, attracting investment, attracting private investment into Canadian infrastructure that serves the public.
Thank you. Madame De Rocher for 6 minutes.
Ms. Desroches, 6 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for joining us this afternoon. I'll begin by congratulating you on the agreement that was announced last week on Build Canada Homes and Mr. Alucha with Quebec. A very nice agreement, a good first step. So there was good news for 2025 housing starts versus 2024. We're headed in the right direction. There's more to do, we know. We know the cost of living is really the #1 issue concerning Canadians, and the cost of housing contributes the most to increasing the cost of living. So there was good news, but we need to continue to accelerate and build more housing, especially affordable housing, which is the #1 task of Build Canada Homes. You've talked about catalyzing the construction industry. If we want to reduce delays, if we want to build faster, can you talk a little bit about how Build Canada Homes will help us modernize the construction industry with new methods? How will we ensure we used Build Canada Homes to do so?
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
English. With Build Canada Homes, we have an investment policy in place now that emphasizes the importance of modern methods of construction. We want to help our housing and home building industry to modernize. Canada is less than 5% of our construction is off-site in factories, which is far behind many of our peer countries, particularly in Scandinavia, where Sweden is approaching 50% of their construction happening off-site in factory-built components. So we need to catch up to the front runners. Certainly, that'll benefit us in terms of having jobs that are more flexible. People can work 12 months a year in a warm factory building homes and components of homes that can be assembled much more rapidly on site. We anticipate this being a real benefit for affordability. As the factories get efficient and productive, as the assembly process is accelerated, we expect to see real affordability gains in the construction side. We also have great opportunities to use Canadian materials at the factory level with construction being able to, I've been in many of the plants across the country now that are using all Canadian wood, basically assembling that wood into wall and floor panels that are insulated and then flat packed and shipped to site where they can be assembled and bolted together quickly. There's a great savings in that process when it is efficient. As a country, we've got to get more efficient at this. We don't have scale with our production lines. Many of the producers right now are running one shift in their factories. We want to see that improve to help bring the cost down, but also I think there are great career opportunities in these factories given the more flexibility with work hours, being able to work 12 months of a year. You don't want to be building houses from scratch on site outside here in Ottawa right now when it's snowing and 20 below. There are some great workers endeavoring to do that, typically doing the interior work, but we think we can have a much more productive sector by investing in the companies that we see scaling up and most importantly, driving the supply chains, making sure we're financing projects that prioritize these materials and create that demand for the manufacturers.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this. Very exciting to be part of this project. Can we maybe talk, with the little time I have left, 2 minutes, can we talk quickly about Building Community Strong Fund and how, as we're expanding the offer of housing, we're also thinking about communities, building communities, making sure they have the infrastructure they need, whether it's water, sewage, community infrastructure, and also building climate resilience.
Certainly. With the Building Community Strong Fund is not expressly included in this BIA package in the Budget Implementation Act before us right now. That will be coming as it's been in the budget through the budget process, $51 billion that is going to be, with the blessing of Parliament, available for communities to invest in housing enabling infrastructure, so water, drinking water, wastewater, stormwater systems, public transit, health and education infrastructure is included in this fund, and we expect to see really strong uptake from communities across the country that can seek funding to enable them to scale, to grow their communities, to build more housing, and that will be coming before us soon. The infrastructure component here in this consideration is with the Infrastructure Bank, and a component of the investment that they will make, if they're increasing from 35 to 45 billion, there's a lot of housing enabling infrastructure that they invest in. Again, water systems, wastewater treatment plants, lots of investments that are happening across the country at a community scale through the Infrastructure Bank, and importantly, attracting private investment as part of the condition of that investment. Those investments attract private investments and leverage the public capital that is going into community infrastructure.
De Rocher, Madame Larouche, bienvenue.
Ms. Larouche. Ms. Larouche, welcome. You have 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for appearing before this committee today to answer questions on this issue, which is such a priority for the riding of Shefford. I have the city of Granby in my riding and found out, and I want to highlight that the city wants to deal with the issue of housing, and for a long time there was a low rate of inoccupancy, but there are many municipalities, and I'll touch on this again. This issue, housing, is a priority for me since I was elected in 2019. But I decided to let others speak today through my questions. Notably, I have questions for you from a local group. The first question is, yes, there's an agreement, Minister, that was signed last week with Quebec that was reached. But my first question would be, Quebec's share doesn't seem to be known. We'd like to know if Quebec will have its share of sums from Build Canada Homes, which would be about $3 billion. So is this something that you can confirm?
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
Oui, le logement
Yes, affordable housing is very important for all Canadians.
to be announcing the agreement with Quebec last week in Quebec City around Build Canada Homes and our process for approving and getting housing built in Quebec. My thanks to the Minister, Minister Proulx, who was very keen to advance this partnership as well, along with our teams who negotiated the agreement. The opportunity with Build Canada Homes is different from what we've seen with housing support from CMHC, as an example. It is not a program that requires applications. Build Canada Homes is an agency with an investment committee, so the way we will work with Quebec will be Quebec will be at a collaboration table with us, bringing forward housing projects, opportunities for us to partner together on financing housing projects. Those will be reviewed at the collaboration table and then advanced to the investment committee at Build Canada Homes. So the investment committee at Build Canada Homes will be reviewing all the proposals that come in. And right now, we have over 400 proposals that have come in through the public portal of Build Canada Homes. The investment committee will review those based on how the proposals align with the investment policy. So Build Canada Homes investment policy is on the website currently right now. You can search it there. Proponents like the City of Granby and other communities in your riding can advance proposals with Quebec. They can see the criteria that is on the website publicly for Build Canada Homes, and basically work their proposal with Quebec. That will come forward to Build Canada Homes.
Mais, Monsieur le Ministre,
But Minister, why let this agreement drag on between Ottawa and Quebec on housing? Wouldn't it have been more simple and efficient to transfer directly the amount to Quebec, as was requested by the government of Quebec and the Bloc Québécois? Why insist on imposing federal conditions on housing when it's clearly counterproductive, because Quebec is best situated to identify needs and respond to them? So why not recognize that reality, Mr. Minister?
Encore merci.
Once again, thank you for the question.
News is that the government of Quebec has come to agreement with government of Canada. We are very excited to be working together, collaborating around a table to advance affordable housing projects in Quebec. I think it's important to think of Build Canada Homes as accelerating the government of Canada's investment in affordable housing. That's the purpose here, is to speed up the process. I think we've had a history, we've had decades of not enough investment from government of Canada into affordable housing. We are catching up for that. We have to accelerate the process by which we review and finance affordable housing proposals that come from across the country. I'm encouraged to see the government of Quebec's enthusiasm and their support for this agreement together and the collaboration that we are embarking on. I think both governments are very interested in speed and making sure that we achieve affordability in communities of all shapes and sizes.
en terminant, Monsieur le Ministre,
To conclude, Minister, you talked about two levels of government. I'd like to talk about the third level, the municipal level. Quickly, I have a motion from the FQM last fall, and just a few days ago I was meeting with people who are concerned in rural areas that Build Canada Homes support communities in the regions, and that major projects be modulated based on the importance of the needs for communities and not the number of units in a project, that the Government of Canada especially recognize local jurisdiction and that there be a different aspect for local communities to meet the needs of the regions of Quebec. There's a number of municipalities in my area shared it with me, and I know you've got a copy too.
Votre
Je pense que mon temps est terminé.
I think my time is up, Mr. Chair. Your time is up.
Mr. Aitchison, good to see you back. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's always a treat to be back under your wise leadership. Minister, thanks for coming. And I'd like to ask you a little bit about housing starts. I would note that housing starts are up a little bit in Canada across the board. And that is good news. I heard the Liberal members talking about that. That's great news. Interestingly enough, they've fallen off a cliff in places like the GTA and Vancouver. And of course, one of the main reasons for that is because those are two regions of the country that have particularly high development charges and local fees and charges. And so one of the things that came up in the election campaign and that the Prime Minister promised to do was to address the issue of these outrageously high development charges, which we now know are halting starts. And so he promised to cut them in half, and yet we've seen nothing about that. Why is that?
Through the chair, thanks to the member for the question. With housing starts, I agree with you. We see it's some good results overall for Canada last year, and some regions have been struggling. Their numbers are down. Toronto, in particular, obviously significantly down. Vancouver is down 3% last year, but there are signs that it's soft for the coming years. We'll keep a close eye on that, but we've also seen good growth of housing starts in many regions across Canada, particularly in Quebec and Alberta. That we need to keep focused on seeing success there and ensuring that we're getting more affordable housing built. And development charges are certainly a part of the challenge, particularly in Ontario and BC. The approach we are taking as government is with the Build Communities Strong Fund and ensuring that that a portion of that funding, there's $51 billion that are proposed there of investment into infrastructure. A portion of that fund is for provinces and territories to match and then bring down development charges, show that the development charges in those provinces are reduced.
Is that funding then, through that fund, is that funding contingent upon those municipalities and those provinces cutting their development charges in half?
That funding is contingent on reducing their development charges by the amount of the funding that's being advanced. And being matched by the provinces or territories.
When do you suppose that will occur?
Well, we have to get Parliament's support for the Building Community Strong Fund within the budget process that we're in now.
Just for the record, housing starts, sales are down 43 to 49% in the GTA. And I would suggest that arguably the biggest supply gap for housing in this country happens to be in the GTA. And if that is the case and housing starts are dropping precipitously, we need to be building, as the CMHC tells us, close to 500,000 units a year, and we're building 259,000. We're building really none in Toronto, none in the GTA, and very few in the Lower Mainland. In fact, builders of homes are laying people off. It's already happening. And so not only will the government not be, collecting huge GST checks off of these new homes, but you're going to be losing jobs in this industry. So, you indicated that on one of these podcasts that big sweeping changes are a little bit risky, like cutting the GST on all new homes under $1.3 million, and that you would try these little things to see what would happen. How many jobs should be lost before we do the big things?
Through the chair, we are doing big things with Build Canada Homes. This is the largest single investment in affordable housing in a budget that we've seen in Canada, and that is scaling up the construction of affordable housing.
Can you?
Which is
Sorry,
what Canada
I need you to
needs
define
first
big
and
things
foremost.
for me. How many units have you announced with Build Canada Homes so far?
So in the first couple months, we have over 7,500 homes that are now enabled, and tens of thousands more that are working their way into the system that will be announced in the coming weeks.
How will Build Canada Homes help us get to 500,000 units a year?
500,000 is what CMHC has, based on the research, estimated as the number that we need to build to catch up for decades of not building enough housing in Canada. So that's a long-term goal, is to scale up construction. We have to do construction differently. We have to use modern methods of construction so we can build faster and more affordably. And we also have to ensure that we are hitting those affordable targets first and foremost. If we are not building more non-market affordable housing, we're going to continue to have the huge challenge we have with homelessness and the challenges we have for young people affording affordable
But you cannot
homes.
sacrifice market housing in the process.
Mr. Richardson, you will be up again, I see from my list. Madame Koutrakis pour 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here with us today, and to all the witnesses that are here. And it's a great segue, actually, because I was going to speak to you about the next generation of young people, and you know, how we keep hearing that, you know, homes are not affordable and they are having a difficult time purchasing their first home. So I was just wondering if you could please speak to how Build Canada Homes is supporting both affordable housing and meaningful employment for the next generation, but not only for the youth, but also job creation in general.
Thanks, through the chair, to the member for her question. We do need to focus on affordability for young Canadians. Build Canada Homes has a significant commitment along those lines to make sure that we're building affordable housing first and foremost. That will benefit our younger generation. We have additional measures in this budget for first-time homebuyers, a GST cut of up to $50,000 for first-time homebuyers. That's for homes up to $1 million, and an extension for homes up to $1.5 million, which is needed in some of the more expensive markets. That's a very dramatic, that's billions of dollars that we're basically investing in helping first-time home buyers and young Canadians access their first home. It's also supporting the home building industry at a time when our MP, who was just asking questions about challenges with housing starts, we need to be building more for first-time home buyers. So that incentive is, I think, a really important piece of the puzzle. But overall, it's about getting our numbers up, getting our productivity up, and making sure that we're leveraging public dollars alongside private investment, whether that's developers investing in projects that are helped in financing by Build Canada Homes, or it's ensuring that we're investing to scale up an industry that makes housing more affordable and can build faster. So I think it's a comprehensive approach with Build Canada Homes. I think we're going to see a focus on student housing. We've had lots of proposals coming from student housing developers, nonprofit and profit, combining to deliver housing for students, which is obviously a critical element for the housing continuum, as well as affordable and middle market housing for young Canadians to access the market.
Thank you. And we've now reached the 100-day mark since the launch of Build Canada Homes. I'm wondering if you could speak to us a little bit about what the initiative has already been able to accomplish in that time, and how these early results are helping advance the government's housing objectives.
Certainly, through the chair, since the launch in September, we have seen several landmark agreements with provinces. Nova Scotia, we had an agreement with, as well as Quebec last week. We have agreements with Ottawa here where we sit today to scale up affordable housing in the city. And the partnership with Ottawa, as an example, they will fast track their approvals and densify alongside the federal government on federal lands here in the city of Ottawa. We have a big effort with the government of Nunavut right now to get over 700 homes built in Nunavut, much needed component of Nunavut 3000 housing plan. So we're seeing great uptake across the board. We've got fantastic proposals from other provinces as well that are working their way into the system. We have 6 federal land projects that are now advancing towards construction in Longueuil, Shannon Park, Ottawa, and Edmonton and Winnipeg, as well as Toronto. We just announced Dunn House, which is a supportive housing project alongside partnering with the City of Toronto and the Province of Ontario to get 54 homes for supportive housing that is really essential as part of the solution for homelessness. There's $1 billion of Build Canada Homes that's earmarked for supportive housing, which is the ultimate solution for homelessness if it has the appropriate health supports wrapped around to help people off the street and out of shelters and transitioning into the secure long-term housing. So we're seeing commitments already in place for thousands of new affordable homes, shovels going into the ground this year, and I expect tens of thousands to be coming through in the proposals in the months ahead.
Oui, Denis? Denis.
Merci.
Madame LaRouche.
Thank you, Madame Larouche, for 2.5 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As I said, this is a topic that is of concern for many groups. It's very important in Quebec. Here I have a question from FADOC, the Association for Seniors, because housing is an issue for seniors. Will there be an aspect for housing for seniors in Build Canada Homes?
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
Canada Homes is looking forward to building affordable housing for everyone that's in need of it, including seniors. We anticipate lots of proposals related to seniors housing. There's undoubtedly a real need. We're also seeing many local governments coming forward with changes as a result of the Housing Affordability, the Housing Accelerator Fund, where they are adding density in existing neighborhoods, four homes on one parcel is now becoming a pretty standard approach in the planning departments of hundreds of cities and towns across Canada. That enables seniors to move into homes that are built within their neighborhood, and they don't have to leave a neighborhood if they need to be changing their housing. So I think we're going to see a number of different solutions. Build Canada Homes will certainly be part of delivering affordable housing for seniors and ensuring that they have access to that as a priority.
J'en aurais tellement de questions à vous poser.
I have so many questions to ask you, Minister, but I will conclude. There's the program that helped with the matter of encampments. We're talking about homelessness, and there was an announcement, unfortunately, when winter was coming in December, that program wouldn't be renewed. And at the beginning of January, I met with local organizations, Partage Notre-Dame, for example. They're extremely concerned. There are fewer spots for them, even though it's winter and people need somewhere warm. So for the program for homelessness, could you reverse your decision and continue that very important program to assist people who are homeless?
Merci.
Thank you for the question once again.
We have several programs around solving and tackling homelessness in Canada. Reaching Home is the overarching program, which has supported almost 10,000 projects since 2019. About 200,000 people have been helped. 110,000 people have been housed as a result. And that program is coming up for potential renewal, as well as the Unsheltered Homelessness and Encampments Initiative, which was in budget 2024, and that was $250 million over these last 2 years. We're reviewing these programs for next steps. The urgent need is very clear, I think, to all of us right now, and so we'll be reviewing that, and I'll look forward to hearing from you on your needs across the country as we consider next steps with program renewal.
Thank you. Merci, Madame LaRouche. Mr. Etchison for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, you'd indicated that there's about 400 proposals currently before Build Canada Homes. Can you give me top-line numbers? How many units does that represent in those 400 proposals? Do you know?
Through the chair, I think for those details, you will have Anna Bailau, it sounds like, is on your list in terms of witnesses coming before the committee. She can give you updated numbers on the details.
Them. That's okay. That's
I don't
fine.
have a top line number and they're coming in every day right now, which is fantastic.
Okay. So, Build Canada Homes, you mentioned about 7,500 units that they've approved. That were, I guess, really in truth already in the works with Canada Lands Company, but that's okay. We'll grant you that. They've somehow accelerated things. So 7,500 units. How many more affordable units do we need to augment the market housing to get us to that 480 to 500,000 units a year? Of that mix, how much needs to be affordable?
Well, I think a good standard we see in European countries is roughly 10% of housing construction being in the affordable end of the spectrum. In Canada, we're below 5%. We're about 4.5% that is non-market. European countries are typically 2 to 3 times that.
So how many affordable units do you think we need to build in this country to catch up then?
At this point, we need to be building tens of thousands of homes going forward that are affordable for Canadians. That gets us on the catch-up curve. I think the critical thing right now is having all types of housing scaled up. But the focus of Build Canada Homes is on non-market housing, and it will leverage some middle market and market housing depending on the proposals.
And that's great. I think it's important that we're building the non-market housing. It's absolutely been neglected. I have no doubt about that. The problem that I hear with all your plans, though, is that there isn't enough attention being paid to market housing, specifically in those areas of the country where the gap is the biggest. I'm talking the GTA and, of course, the Lower Mainland. I've talked to builders in Vancouver, your home city, where they tell me that there'll be probably 20,000 units a year for the next 2 years that'll get completed, but they're not digging any new holes. They're not starting any new projects, and they're laying people off. Similar story in the GTA in Toronto and the surrounding cities. And, of course, again, we're back to the cost and the process and everything that adds to that cost of getting a unit built in, let's just take Toronto. Hundreds of thousands of dollars as local government charges and fees. The cities in Ontario collectively are sitting on $12 billion in reserve funds that have been collected in development charges. And so I wonder if maybe you have a plan to work with the province of Ontario to unlock some of that money to build housing enabling infrastructure right now, because the crisis is today, not 10 years from now.
Through the chair, well, I agree with the member. We need to see action in Ontario at the provincial level to make sure that all of the regulations are in place to ensure that cities and towns are using the development charges that they've collected already. If ever there was a time to use that funding, it's now, given the market conditions. There are a lot of other factors right now, I think, that are affecting people's choices around homes. Obviously, the economic instability, the pressure, the trade pressure from the U.S. Is having a really negative effect on our housing market. In some markets, in other markets, we're booming. So that's the challenge across Canada.
The scale of the problem is absolutely massive. There's no doubt about that, and I appreciate that you understand that. The builders in the GTA have told us loud and clear, though, that rebating the GST only for first-time home buyers is not enough of a market to start projects again. They don't make up enough of the market. They said over and over and over again, as have people like Mike Moffat, that we need to cut the GST on all new home projects to help get the market going again. So you agree the scale of the problem is massive. You've just told me you agree. You think that the municipalities in Ontario should tap into their development charge reserves. I agree. I think we should cut the cost of government at all levels, including cutting the GST on all new homes. Why won't you make that move?
Through the chair, we are looking at all of the tools that we can use as a federal government. It doesn't make sense to cut the GST on home building in provinces where it's booming, where the numbers are up dramatically. That's Alberta and Quebec for starters. We've seen an enormous lift in the number of homes that are being built there.
If housing is a human right, why do you think we should tax it the way we tax cigarettes and booze?
It's not even across the country, and that's why the tools that we use have to be precise and have to get the desired outcomes. And blaming it all on development charges is not accurate. When we
I don't
see
blame it all on
the way
development
the
charges,
market
Minister. I
is
blame it on
behaving
all
right now.
levels of government that charge too much tax.
Mr. Aitchison and Minister will now go to Madame Fancy for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and welcome, Minister, today. I think in you knowing me now, what I'm probably going to talk about, we've talked a lot about the one end of the spectrum with urban housing. And I know my colleague from across the way talked very quickly in regards to rural housing. So my questions that I have today, the theme would be access and infrastructure. So it was really neat to see you say, beginning today, that we cannot build homes without infrastructure and accessibility. So in Build Canada Homes, it's a significant new tool, I'll give you that, to help accelerate housing here. But how will smaller and rural communities like the ones in South Shore St. Margaret's, where I'm from, be supported to access programs? I've talked to a lot of developers and nonprofits in my riding, and they're saying that it's really hard to gain access. So I'm wondering today if you could talk to us, is there any rural-centric policy development with this big, shiny new Build Canada Homes so that my developers and the people in my riding can, the little guys get a fighting chance when they don't have units, 100, 1,000 plus?
Mm-hmm. Thanks for your question. So we want to see housing built in communities of all shapes and sizes that is affordable. And that is a challenge under the current set of programs right now. And the plan with with Build Canada Homes is to ensure that we're reviewing proposals from communities of all sizes. And we are supporting rural projects because a small project in a rural community can have a big impact on the success in that community and ensuring that people have an affordable place to live. In rural Canada, there are two things happening right now. Everyone is welcome to send proposals in through the public portal at the Build Canada Homes website. First and foremost, we are also seeing provinces and territories bundling rural projects together. We saw this from New Brunswick recently in their proposal to Build Canada Homes, with lots of projects included from small communities across that province. And they will help as a province to ensure that projects get built and manage some of the details, which is, I think, is very helpful in terms of being more efficient with the whole review process and the financing. So that's the approach that we're seeing from some parts of the country. I think I understand there are regions that are also bundling from rural communities so that there's an easier process going through the Build Canada Homes review and decision. But it is possible for small communities as well to put their proposals forward. And we're trying to be as collaborative as possible with this, with the way that we're approaching this. I'd certainly encourage you to ask the CEO of Build Canada Homes, Anna Bailau, questions on how that's going and what that looks like for rural communities, which I've visited in your riding, and also for supporting the manufacturing businesses that are in many parts of rural Canada, including yours, where there are great innovative companies that are doing really good work to make building products that can be used in affordable housing. So we're looking forward to supporting both the construction side and get the housing built.
Awesome. Thank you for some concrete examples there today, Minister, in my little amount of time that I have left. In regards to infrastructure, so in many rural and coastal communities like mine, housing development is very constrained, less by the amount of land. We've got lots of land, but more by infrastructure, like wastewater and sewage systems. So how does the housing framework from Budget 2025 align with federal infrastructure funding to ensure that these projects can move a lot faster and forward rather than in silos?
Mm-hmm. Thanks for the question. We are prioritizing the Build Community Strong Fund to invest in community infrastructure that enables housing to be built. There's no question we have a deficit of infrastructure across the country. In my former role as a mayor, we always talked about the infrastructure deficit that local governments could not solve on their own. I think the $51 billion in the new fund will help to start catching up on infrastructure that's needed, particularly to build housing in rural communities. And at the same time, we need to be more strategic and more efficient with the land that is already served by or serviced by infrastructure. And that infill development is going to be really important in small to large communities. That's where the Housing Accelerator Fund has been helping deliver. Anywhere we can build where there's existing infrastructure, we need to be pursuing that and making good use of that infrastructure. But this is, with Build Community Strong Fund, an unprecedented investment in housing enabling infrastructure that will help communities of all shapes and sizes.
Nice. Do I have any time? Oh.
That concludes the round, but just before you go, thank you, Minister. I'm going to use my prerogative as chair. I have a question, Minister. You referenced in your answer to one of the earlier questions about understanding the needs of the new housing entrant, the young housing entrant. Can you, if that person was watching today, how can you assure them that all the tools that government have, all the bureaucracy sitting around, understands the dilemma they're facing, and that their needs will be a primary focus as we move forward on addressing this housing inequity?
Thanks, Mr. Chair, for the question. Well, I think it's a shared priority of everyone across Canada now. It's the affordable housing has reached crisis levels. We certainly see that on our streets. I think the homelessness challenge is the tip of the iceberg. When there are this many people who don't have a home, that reflects that we don't have anywhere near enough housing that's affordable for Canadians. And I know, I speak on behalf of my colleagues, we're extremely passionate about getting affordable housing built and the infrastructure that enables that to happen. We are a community building department, and I think we're going to be throwing everything at it to make sure that we build faster, build more affordably, build across the country, and particularly in communities with the greatest need. So we will be redoubling our efforts. We're heartened by the new structure of Build Canada Homes and taking a more innovative approach, and also by the interest that we're seeing governments of all levels, developers, nonprofit housing providers, First Nations. We're seeing a ton of interest now in coming forward with great new proposals to build affordable housing. It's going to be our job to really implement and make sure the financing is moving and that homes get built as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Minister. With that, it concludes the first hour of today's meeting. We'll suspend for a few minutes while we move into the business portion of the meeting. Thank you, Minister, and your officials for appearing today. Spend. you.